Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the time, and thank you for the witnesses today for coming in. What I believe discussing a very, very important issue, what's happening here in the United States prisons. What I'd like to first start off with is, Mr. Downing, if you could just tell me a little bit more about the radicalization process within the prisons themselves. Can you kind of comment on that and how someone becomes radicalized?
Inside the prison systems, well, it's not too far from how a gang member goes through the process to become a gang member, where there's an orientation, there's an identification, there's an indoctrination process, and then there's a type of radicalization that goes through. But it's the people, it's the charismatic leaders, it's the materials, it's the places of association that contribute to that. And we have evidence where we've seen a little bit of convergence with the gangs. We have a higher African-American prison population that is being converted. And we've seen this come out onto the streets in terms of convert mosques coming up in the different communities as well.
Thank you for that. Mr. Dunleavy, could you comment on that as well?
The process of radicalization, particularly Islamic radicalization in the prison system, is very, very selective. It's a filtering process. It does not occur with 500 inmates in the yard of Attica yelling jihad. The facilitators and the recruiters that are in the system have the unique ability of profiling. They are able to spot an individual who walks into a cell block for the very first time, and they can tell what that person, if he has, first of all, they know he has a propensity for violence because he's already committed crime. They know that he's somewhat by himself, and so he wants a sense of purpose to his life. They do all this profiling within the first day that they meet him. And then they begin to disciple first to convert him, then to move him when he's going to be released to a Islamic mosque within that they've recommended to him. And then from there, if he continues, to move him to an Islamic center either in Virginia or in Florida, and then from there to filter him to overseas travel for continued studies. So it is a process that starts often in the county jail, moves through the state system, and through the post-release and parole.
Could you explain me, in doing some research, we found that due to the insistence of the Justice Department, Attorney General Holder, the Bureau of Prisons is forced to play Louis Farrakhan's Nation of Islam videos as sermons or chapel services for Muslim prisoners. Is that correct or incorrect?
I'm not aware of that.
Can anybody comment on that? No. Okay. The next thing about Sharia law, radical Islam, would you agree or disagree, and you go across the panel here, that radical Islam would place Sharia law as the primary law for their religion? Would you agree or disagree to that?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes, it's my understanding that's a central tenet to their agenda.
Mr. Downing?
Yes, and that's what some of the material is that is in the prison system. Al-Awlaki videos and lectures are about the creation of a caliphate, worldwide Muslim domination, and Sharia law.
Okay.
That was explicit in the Kevin James case. He stated that explicitly.
Okay. In Sharia law, then, could you also comment, does Sharia law supersede the Constitution of the United States?
In the committed Islamic jihadist, it absolutely does. There's only one document.
Okay.
I agree. I mean, the reality is that for a committed jihadist, Sharia law is God's law, and that's the only law that they have to follow. Everything else is man-made law, and that's not something that they feel has any authority over them in their actions.
I would agree. However, I would just offer this, that in our outreach and engagement with Muslim communities, we recognize, and the Muslim communities recognize, that the law of the land is the Constitution, and that there may be Sharia principles in their community that they look at similar to Jewish laws, but the law of the land, the rule of law, is the Constitution of the United States.
That's correct. I would add that the Muslim community in the United States is relatively prosperous, middle class, and well educated, but they do accept the Constitution as the law of the land.
So specifically, radical Islam you would agree then would Sharia law would supersede the Constitution of the United States and radical Islam. Would that be a correct, fair statement? I've got 4 seconds.
I think that's the distinction that needs to be made, that this is what I'm talking about is from a radical jihadist mentality, not mainstream Muslims.
Okay. Thank you very much.
And I think you'd have to put violent radical Islam.
Time of the gentleman has expired. The